Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Rentz here, host of the Raiders Report, and good morning to all of you. I don't know about you, I slept pretty damn well. Why? Because of our awesome sponsor here, 8 Sleep. And if you need to improve your sleep as well, go to 8sleep.com/chatsports. That link's going to be available to you all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. So I'm getting you guys a video bright and early this morning before Jeremy Chuggs and I go live, which we're about to go live at 12 Eastern noon, so a few 50 minutes from now. But I wanted to give you a little bit of an update because there is a major Raiders salary cap news bit that I really need to get out there around Jimmy Garoppolo, around Hunter Renfrow. On top of that, I'm going to tell you why the Raiders decided to change their mind on how they designated the cut for Jimmy G. So if you guys remember yesterday, I was up here on this show talking about how the Raiders were officially moving on from Jimmy G, and this was not much of a surprise, right? I mean, the new league year started yesterday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Every single person knew that the Raiders were going to be moving on from Garoppolo, but what's important today is the Raiders now are designated Jimmy G as a post-June 1st cut. For a lot of the people that watch the show the entire offseason, I sat up here and I said, if I'm the Las Vegas Raiders, I am going to designate Garoppolo as a post-June 1st cut, because if you're the Raiders, you can get two of those. All NFL teams can get two post-June 1st cut candidates. The reason why that this is new information is because Tashan Reed on Monday reported that the Raiders were going to just outright cut Garoppolo. And if they were just going to outright cut Jimmy G, it was going to be a $17 million dead cap hit this year. The Raiders would save about $11.25. However, you would be able to get that $11.25 and spend it right away in free agency. Now we have new information, and this is one of those things where I'm not throwing shade at Raiders beat reporters. It's just a fact. Beat reporters that cover the Raiders, they give their opinion. I would not take it as factual information. It's just what they think is going to happen. Now, Tashan did say that the Raiders have had a change of heart, which maybe they did end up having a change of heart, which, you know, you can look at it both ways. With now the update here around Garoppolo, them designating him as a post-June 1st cut, this means the Raiders are going to save $24.07 million. They are not going to get that money until after June 1st. Garoppolo is officially not on this team. He can sign anywhere he wants to go. It's going to be a dead cap hit of $4.27 million right now, and then they're also going to have a cap hit of $12.8 million on the books for next season. Now, this is why you subscribe to the Raiders Report. There's a lot of stuff that happens in free agency. Signings, we were live for the last 3 days. We're going to be live all day today as well. But when new information comes out, I want you guys to know. So hit that subscribe button. If you don't learn anything from watching our show in 1 week, I mean it. Unsubscribe. You got absolutely nothing to lose. And if you want to hang out with Chuggs and I for a few hours today live, pull up today to the Raiders Report. Let's now also get into Hunter Renfrow, because I also mentioned that there could be a possibility that the Raiders decide to make him also a post-June 1st cut candidate. But the thing is with the Raiders, they're just going to outright cut him. They're going to save the money right away. They want to be able to use that $8.2 million to go out and spend in free agency ASAP Rocky. The dead money hit that they're getting now is $5.5 million. If they would have designated Renfrow as a post-June 1st cut, they would have ended up saving $11.9, but that money, again, they would not have been able to use until after June 1st. With the fact that the Raiders are just moving on from Renfrow right now, they're not going to have a dead cap hit in 2025, so it's kind of washing their hands clean. But the Raiders, this was also been reported for the last 2 years, that they did at least try to trade Renfrow. The problem was nobody was willing to take on his contract, even if that meant a conditional 7th-round pick. Now, I don't mean to throw shade at Renfrow, but that's just the truth. Nobody was willing to give up a 7th-round pick for Mr. Renfrow. But you got to be able to respect this guy, because when I first started doing this show, man, there's only a few names left, which is crazy. When I first started doing the show, the only player that I guess started covering is left on the team is Maxx Crosby. And the fact that Amika's no longer a part of the squad, the fact that, you know, a guy like Renfrow is no longer a part of the squad, I believe this through and through. He put out an amazing message on social media. Once a Raider, always a Raider. Third and Renfrow, my man, you will be missed. And if you guys want to show Renfrow a little bit of love, throw some 13s down below, because I know this. You could tell that him leaving the Raiders definitely hurt. Best of luck to number 13 wherever he lands. Coming up here next on the show, I'm going to tell you why I personally believe the Raiders decided to maybe they did change their mind like Tashan Reed said, or maybe they're just like, you know what, we've had a plan in place. I agree with this move. This is what I would have done. I would have designated Jimmy Garoppolo as that post-June 1st cut, as I've said all offseason. And I'm going to tell you why I think that they decided to do it as well. Before I get into that, though, shout out to today's sponsor, Better Sleep with 8 Sleep. I'm telling you this, you ever have like one of those magic 8 balls? That's what you need to have here with 8 Sleep. You shake it up, and it's like every night, it's like you're going to have a better night's sleep. Go to 8sleep.com/chatsports again, because I love what they're able to do. If you ever think about the age-old question of trying to improve your sleep, 8 Sleep's Pod 3 cover slips right over your mattress, bringing heating and cooling tech that keeps you comfortable sleeping deeper for a better, more restful night. I know I've expressed this to all of y'all before, but I like to sleep when it's cold. Like, I need the fan on. I need it to be nice and chilly. Alex, on the other hand, wants it to be a flippin' sauna. The cool part about this thing is it can get up to 110 degrees for her side, though I don't even recommend that. And it can get to as cool as 55 degrees. On top of that, I like to sleep with my dog Chuck, but both of them on top of me, it's pretty warm in there. One of the things that I love is I don't wake up with night sweats. It improves my sleep and improves my work quality. I mean, I don't know about y'all. This week especially, I have really, really needed to use 8 Sleep. Chugs and I have been live for probably over 24 hours over the past 3 days. We're going to be live for another 7-8 hours today. So if you want to be able to improve your sleep, go to 8sleep.com/chatsports, because we're hooking you guys up here. I've also think that when you use the pod, one of the cool numbers that they have here, if you're a numbers person, that 32% of users have improved their sleep quality on the pod. So Nation, go to 8sleep.com/chatsports and get $200 off plus free shipping on the pod cover by 8 Sleep. Invest in the rest you deserve. So if anybody liked anything that I said about today's sponsor, remember that link's going to be very, very high in the comments. It's also going to be in the description of today's show. 8sleep.com/chatsports. I know I'll sleep a little bit better if the Raiders make some big splashes today. No disrespect to Harrison Bryant yesterday or the re-signing of Kanai Malga. But I need some picks today. I need something to light me up a little bit, because I need to be excited, and hopefully you tune into us live. Shout out again to today's sponsor. So to me, this is why the Raiders decided to make Jimmy Garoppolo a post-June 1st cut. And the way that I would look at salary cap money is, at the end of the day, if you're going to end up getting money in the offseason, you just got to learn how to allocate your money. Just like when you get paid on your payday, you need to learn how to allocate your money. And to me, this is a smart investment in the Raiders down the road. So the Raiders, to me, the reason why that they're willing to make that post-June 1st cut is because you're going to eat that $12.8 million in dead cap space in 2025. However, I think a lot of NFL teams know, and I'm going to anticipate it as well, that you're going to have a little bit of a salary cap increase. So that $12.8 million next year is technically going to be less than what it would be this year if you just think about the entire piece of the pie, if you will. The Raiders have 9 picks in 2024. You're going to have to pay those 9 draft picks, and realistically, I expect that's be somewhere around $12 million. So if you think about the money that the Raiders are saving here with the $24.1 million in total, you take $12 million away from that of just the draft picks, and then you can also allocate that other $12 million to go out and extend certain players, which the Raiders do have a lot of players that they could essentially extend this offseason, which we'll get to here in a sec. But what's confusing about the Raiders' salary cap right now, Chugs, if you can go back to it, what's one of the things that's confusing out there is all the different numbers that are being reported, and I get it. And I'm not going to sit up here and act like I know exactly what the Raiders are doing here. However, Over the Cap has the Raiders at $12.9 million. That's 19th in the NFL. That's on Over the Cap. On Spotrac, the Raiders are listed at $35.3 million. I've been looking at it all morning. It's kind of hard to figure out exactly. I will say neither spot has Harrison Bryant signed with the Raiders yet. The big difference maker, though, is Over the Cap has Jimmy Garoppolo still on the book, which, remember, because he's a post-June 1st cut, he's not on the team, but $28.3 million cap hit is still on the books for the Raiders until post-June 1st, and Over the Cap has it on there. Spotrac does not. That's where I think this difference kind of lies, and their numbers are always a little bit different. But I would say that Spotrac is probably the more accurate one of like how much money they actually have. However, Over the Cap is not wrong because Jimmy Garoppolo is on their books for there. So with that $24.1 million, though, you're going to get that money to spend after June 1st. Again, that's going to go to the draft picks, which I think is a smart move. And it could also go to some potential salary cap extension type of players. And coming up here on the show, I'm going to tell you some players that if I'm the Las Vegas Raiders, you got to consider extending this offseason. And there's a lot of different names to throw on there. And realistically, now that I'm thinking about it, I even forgot a name. If you want to add, you know who I am? Yeah, cool. All right, so one of the names here is Robert Spillane. To me, I want to get Robert Spillane inked to a deal. With Maxx Crosby got 3 years left on his contract, Spillane's got 1 year left on his. The mentality that Spillane brings to the field, him being a captain on this defense, Antonio Pierce being the linebacker that he is. When Spillane broke his hand, right, like this past season, broke his hand, got that shit wrapped up, put a cast on it, went back out onto the field. The following week, people are like, I don't know if he's going to be able to play. And if you remember, he made that game-saving interception with his left hand. The mentality that Robert Spillane brings to the football field, to me, is a contagious thing. And there's a player that he's got that Maxx Crosby dog in him. You know what I mean? And like, if you're going to try to build a franchise, you need more guys like this. So with Spillane only having 1 year left on his deal, with Crosby having 3 years left on his, and then you see Wilkins getting a 4-year deal, there are certain key members to this defense that I want to make sure we keep together, because every single player that I'm about to bring up here definitely deserves a contract extension. And sometimes if you get it done earlier rather than later, you do end up saving yourself a little bit of money. So Robert Spillane makes my list. Let's go to the cornerback position, Nate Hobbs. And this is another player that I am very curious to see what he ends up getting if he does get an extension, because if he's playing slot, he's not going to make as much money compared to if he plays on the outside. And Jack Jones is your outside corner. Antonio Pierce called it a priority finding a cornerback one. So that, to me, makes me believe that they do not value Hobbs as a true cornerback one on the outside. I know he's a hell of a player, but this is somebody that I at least want to keep on this roster. Another name that I want to keep here is Marcus Epps. And Marcus Epps was one of those signings last year when the Raiders gave him a 2-year, $12 million contract. Chugs and I sat up here and we're like, this is going to be a really good leader. He was a great player for that Philadelphia Eagles defense, led that team in snaps the year they went to the Super Bowl. He leaves, and you saw how bad that Eagles secondary struggled. He can play up near the line of scrimmage. I think he's the player that everyone thought Jonathan Abram could potentially be, just a very good overall safety. And when you have him next to Trevon Merrick, Epps made Trevon Merrick better. And if I'm the Raiders, I'm trying to keep that secondary together. I'm trying to give Merrick a contract extension. He was my number one safety coming out of the 2021 NFL draft. I was shocked that he fell in round 2, and what a difference a year can make, because his first 2 years in the NFL, he struggled. But he also had a first year in the NFL after COVID. Then you get a brand new defensive coordinator in Patrick Graham. And then you heard Merrick even talk about it a little bit last year, where he discussed the idea of, I'm finally getting to play in another system that I recognize and that I know. And now you finally see, like, all right, Merrick is a legit player. So you add all those dudes together. I'm trying to keep them together. And then maybe this guy might be the biggest candidate out of them all, Malcolm Koonce. Over the final 9 games of last season with Antonio Pierce, guy had 8 sacks. And you signed Christian Wilkins, you got Maxx Crosby. I understand you got Tyree Wilson. But if I'm Las Vegas, the reason why I am designating that post-June 1st cut candidate of Jimmy Garoppolo and getting that extra money, yeah, you don't get to sign some of these extra free agents, but I think a lot of people amongst the nation right now goes, okay, do I save more money this year? Yes. Do I have other priorities? Yes. And if I'm Las Vegas, I am making it a point to figure out a way how to bring all 5 of those players back on a contract extension. So let's play a little bit of a game here, okay? I want you to extend one player, and I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm also going to throw in Malcolm Koonce into this discussion. So if you could extend one player, okay, and I mean one guy only, out of Robert Spillane, Marcus Epps, Nate Hobbs, Trevon Merrick, and Malcolm Koonce, who would you extend? I want you to type 41 for Robert Spillane. I want you to type 39 for Nate Hobbs, number 1 for Marcus Epps, 25 for Trevon Merrick, or I want you to go down below and type 52 for Malcolm Koonce, because I think all of these players, you could definitely make a note of that, you know what, these guys, 51 for Malcolm Koonce, that all these guys definitely deserve a contract extension. But if you could only pick one, who would be the person you end up picking? There's a lot of different ranges that you can go with this one. Like, if I'm the Raiders, it wouldn't surprise me if they did try to extend Robert Spillane first, because he is that captain. He wears that green dot, and he did a phenomenal job last season. I also wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to ink Malcolm Koonce based on overall priority. Then I would probably rank it as Nate Hobbs, Trevon Merrick, and then Marcus Epps But then again, if we can get all 5 of them, I know it's a big ask, but I do think it's a very, very important thing considering how good this Raiders defense was yesterday. Also, before I end today's show, in case you didn't know, Christian Wilkins and Gardner Minshew are going to speak to the media today. So when I'm live here on the Raiders Report, I'll probably be breaking that stuff down with you, seeing their live reactions, live comments. I know a few people yesterday were worried because the Raiders did not officially announce that Minshew and Wilkins are going to be signed. Based on what I was told, that it's going to happen today just because they are speaking, and I'm not even shitting you. The Raiders just put out that they've officially signed Christian Wilkins and Gardner Minshew. So there you go. But they're going to be speaking to the media today. Really excited to see what both of those guys have to say, because you might not agree with the on-the-field signings, at least for Minshew. But Gardner Minshew and Christian Wilkins are going to be phenomenal fits in that locker room. They're going to be phenomenal fits, and I think that a lot of fans are going to be like, you know what? These guys are absolute Raiders. To stay up to date on all things going on around the silver and black, make sure you guys give me a follow on IG and on Twitter at MitchellRents365. And we're going to be doing our best today, as we always do on the Raiders Report, keeping you guys up to date on everything going on around the Raiders, but also everything going on around NFL free agency, because the last 2 days have been slow. So fingers crossed that today gets a little bit wet and wild.